As a sequel to our summer series in Proverbs, if you were here, it was a great book. And so now essentially is part 2 for the next 9 weeks. We're going to be in this series that I've called Coffee with the Mad King, which is sitting down with King Solomon and hearing all that he's had to learn at the end of his life in the book of Ecclesiastes. And so I'm really excited, and you guys look a little bit nervous, and I'm just I cannot wait to start this book. If you guys pay attention this much, I doubt you do. For many, many years now, I've been wanting to do the book of Ecclesiastes. It's been kind of just this note in Todoist, just like one of these days we're going to do it. And so actually we will conclude this book the first week in December. And so if you think Ecclesiastes with baby dedication Sunday is an awkward transition, just be ready for sleigh bells ringing and ding, ding, dinging, and then we're like, everything is meaningless. So yeah, it's going to be really, really, really fun. And so maybe you're thinking, hey, isn't the theme of the year healing? Like, isn't that 2024? So really? Maybe you're thinking, how does the Cinderella of Ecclesiastes fit the glass slipper of 2024, a year of healing? Your words, but I'll answer it. I really think that Ecclesiastes now more than ever, but it speaks to every generation. It's timely. It's forever timely because it speaks of this. It speaks of existence. It speaks to the existentialism that is everything that we experience, to quote Ecclesiastes, under the sun. Ecclesiastes is for those of us that struggle, for those of us that have experienced doubt and pain and suffering, that are struggling to find the meaning of life when everything feels so meaningless. Ecclesiastes is for those who doubt God's existence, but can't stop thinking about him and talking to him. Those who got what they wanted, what they always wanted, but at the end of that, they wanted more. It's for those that begged and begged, but never received. Ecclesiastes answers a lot of life's questions when it comes to the meaning and the purpose of life, but for every answer, it gives us 30 more questions. And so the heart of Ecclesiastes is to trust God and surrender, because we'll never fully figure this out this side of eternity. We'll never fully understand. It calls us to trust God even when some of the questions are left unanswered. He's in control even when life is not. Again, Ecclesiastes is about life. Therefore, it's about every day, any day. It's about everything that we experience under the sun. And so it is so timely, and it is so good, and I cannot wait to dive into it with you. We're going to go through 2 chapters today, so buckle up, and we're going to have some fun together. But we will start right at the beginning. I'm probably going to be using the NIV for Ecclesiastes, but who knows? Maybe as we get closer, we'll go, never mind NLT, never mind ESV. But if you do want to follow along, there'll be a few moments where we'll just kind of tap fast forward, but for the most part today, we're just going to be verse by verse by verse, Ecclesiastes 1 and 2. So let's go ahead and begin. This is Ecclesiastes 1, verse 1, and we'll stop actually before we even finish the sentence. It says this: the words of the, say it with me, teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. So first we are introduced to, just for fun, I'm going to call the teacher a character that King Solomon plays. We're introduced to the teacher, and the teacher's going to talk for 11 chapters. He's going to talk to you about all that he has learned, all that he has experienced, and I want to make sure you understand. If you're waiting for a little cute bow at the end of this Sunday, it ain't going to happen. The book of Ecclesiastes doesn't really fully conclude until the very last verses of the very last chapter. So make no mistake, this entire series is going to be an unresolved tension that we will not fully resolve until the last chapters. It's a song that's like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. And then you just got to sit with that for 9 weeks. And then we'll eventually get the do. Like, feels so good. So the teacher, this is King Solomon at his worst. He is cynical, depressed, unreliable, borderline schizophrenic. The teacher is angry with the world and angry with God for what he has experienced. The teacher is almost like an alter ego to the King Solomon that we met in Proverbs. If you were here for that summer series, we called it Road Less Stupid, the book of Proverbs. And in Proverbs, we meet this young, vibrant King Solomon that's learning and growing and writing and excited and hopeful and optimistic. And in Ecclesiastes, it's King Solomon at the end of his life. And again, he's cynical. He's incredibly frustrated. He is dealing with the existential dread that is, to a phrase that we will hear all throughout the next 9 weeks, life under the sun. Again, the teacher speaks for most of the book until chapter 12, when then kind of Solomon takes off the teacher mask. He goes, okay, so at the end of it all, here's what I've learned. But again, we won't get to that on purpose for 9 weeks. So what is the very first thing that the teacher wants us to learn? Again, it's coffee with the Mad King. I picture you and I, we have this breakfast appointment with King Solomon. It's early in the morning. The coffee hasn't quite kicked in yet. It's not fully sunny outside. And you're like, hey man, how has it been? And this is what he says. Read it with me. Meaningless. Meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all of their labors at which they toil? Here it is, under the sun. This is a word that we'll hear time and time and time and time again for the next 9 weeks. And we break it down because the NIV says meaningless, which is good, but it's not the full bouquet that is the flower that is this word, hevel. Say the word meaningless in its original is the word hevel. Say hevel. We'll say that a lot in the next 9 weeks. And the word is vapor. It's breath. It's a figure of speech that means vanity. Like not vanity like, ooh, I look good today. Vanity like it's all in vain. The word here for life under the sun is that life is just, and it's gone. It's a vapor. It's a breath. You can't grab hold of it. You try and you see it and it just goes through your hand. You know what? I want to do it. Life is, I'll make sure I'm under the light. Oh. And then it's gone. This is disinfectant spray, by the way, if you're wondering what in the world I just grabbed. It's just like, oh, there's your life. Oh, there's your kids' back to school pictures, the 2024 election. Oh, that new promotion. It's all of your life. Did you see it? You missed it. Did you see your 20s? Your 20s were real sparkly, and it's gone. That's what he's saying. All of life, all of existence, he says, it's hevel, it's a vapor, it's meaningless. Again, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all of their labors at which they toil in vain? Again, this is the teacher talking, and he sounds real chipper, doesn't he? So I'm gonna kind of lay out some key themes for the next 9 weeks. What the teacher wants us to know of life under the sun. It's meaningless. Why? Essentially because of 3 things. And they're really, really depressing, and they're really, really true. The first thing he wants us to understand, we'll read together in this book. He says, 1, that you can't beat time. The sands of time will bury all of us. Time comes for us all. It's meaningless. Why? Because time destroys everything. We age. Hypothetically, not you. You look great today, but we age, don't we? Our energy, our desires, our optimism dim over time. No matter what we do, no matter what we try to accomplish, again, the sands of time will bury every single one of us. The teacher is frustrated, it's cynical at life under the sun. Why? Because no one will remember us. Do you know your great-great-great-grandfather's name? No, and he doesn't know yours either. Us, everything we stress about, everything we're excited for, none of it will matter. Everything we care about under the sun is erased by the sands of time. Let's close in prayer. Isn't it good? No, so that's the first thing he wants us to know. The next 2 are even worse. The teacher says, yeah, you can't beat time. The second thing he wants us to understand throughout Ecclesiastes is that you can't beat death. It comes for us all. You could follow all of Andrew Huberman's protocols, take ice baths and intermittent fastings. No one, not even good old vampire man Brian Johnson, can beat death. You can't, I love that one section understood what I was talking about right there, and it makes me happy. No one can beat death. It comes for all of us. Eat all the kale smoothies you want, right? It will. You age, we die. And even more than that, what the teacher wants us to know is that reality of death can often loom over us. Every single smile has a little asterisk by it. Remember, you will die. The decisions we make, the joy we experience, the teacher's saying life is meaningless. Why? Because time keeps going and it will swallow us, and death is behind us, and you can try for your entire life to outrun it, but eventually it catches up. And the last thing is this. The teacher wants us to understand that you can't beat time, you can't beat death, and you also can't beat the odds. You can't change the outcome of so many things in life. What he explains to us is sometimes the evil, crooked, disgusting, awful person wins the gold medal. And it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel fair. It doesn't feel just. Sometimes really good plans fall apart. Sometimes your best friend betrays you. Proverbs teaches us that to live a good life and to live a wise life is pleasing to God. Right? That was the entire summer series. The Proverbs teaches us that living a good life and a wise life is pleasing to God, but it doesn't guarantee a successful life. It also doesn't guarantee a long life. And that's what the teacher, again, under the sun, wants to show us throughout these 9 weeks together. And that's why he says it's a vapor. It's hevel. It's meaningless. It's here. And then it's gone, and you can't grab a hold of it. Be it your kid's growing up, and you can't hold them anymore. So all of a sudden, you wake up one day, and you're like, what is that? And it is a pain you will live with for the rest of your life under the sun. Was that too real for somebody? Like, did somebody wake up with a spastic neck? I'm sorry about that. You're like, too soon. What I'm telling you is sometimes life is Operation Acoustic Kitty. What? Don't worry, my little birdies, I'll feed you. I learned this week, and it made me so excited. So Operation Acoustic Kitty was a secret CIA operation in the 1960s. They spent over $20 million to both train and cybernetically enhance a cat to spy on the Soviets. The Kremlin were close, and they said, we know, let's spend $20 million on a cat. This is real. Google it later. I want to make sure I get my notes. Again, a secret CIA operation in the 1960s. They spent $20 million. They surgically implanted microphones inside this cat, and they trained it, and they said this was the plan. There was a Soviet embassy, right, in Washington, D.C., and so there was 2 Kremlin officers that would sit at a park bench, and they would talk. And so they said, okay, here's our secret. This cat, Operation Acoustic Kitty, is going to sneak on in and spy on these 2 Soviets, right? These 2 Kremlin officers. Months and months and months and months and months of training. Over $20 million, your taxes at work. The cat was released nearby and instantly ran over by a taxi. And died. I know. It's the things I get paid to learn about all week long. So sad. I've been so sad about it. But also, so Ecclesiastes. Sometimes your life is Operation Acoustic Kitty. All the time and the money and the effort and whoops, time for plan B. And this is, again, what the teacher is going to mumble and complain about for 12 chapters. So buckle in. Let's keep hearing what King Solomon has to say. Why does he feel this way? I feel like in this moment, he's starting to sip his very first cup of coffee. He gets more caffeinated, and he gets even worse as we continue. But he is now sat down. You are locked in going, what did I sign up for? And he says this, generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets, and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome. More than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been done will be done again, What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which someone can say, look, this is something new? No, it was already here long ago. It was here before our time. Here it is. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. What we're seeing here, again, we'll see it time and time and time and time again. The viewpoint of the teacher is the viewpoint of life under the sun. This is a horizontal view of life versus a vertical view of life. And to get ahead of myself a bit, King Solomon, the teacher, does not mention God for 2 solid chapters. We'll read it today, but it's really only in passing. Remember, the song does not resolve for 8 more weeks. But this is a horizontal versus a vertical view of life. That's why he continually says, life under the sun is meaningless. Everything the earth has to offer, all of humanity, all of our efforts, all of our technologies, in the end is hevel, it's a vapor, it's meaningless. It's a horizontal view of life versus a vertical view of life. And that's why this series is the gospel in Ecclesiastes. And that's why, I don't know if you saw it, kind of the joke of the intro video is King Solomon needs Jesus. And it's because strictly a horizontal view of life will lead you to, what's the point? The vertical view of looking up and saying, God, where are you in this? In the joys, in the pain, in the suffering, in the generations coming, right? You can do everything you want. You can climb the tallest mountain, die on the mountain, and the mountain will just keep on mountaining, right? It won't change at all. It's the horizontal view versus the vertical view of life. Again, what is he showing us? What does the teacher want us to know? The meaninglessness of a horizontal life, you can't outlive it. Generations come, generations go. No one remembers the former generations. You can't outlive this feeling, try as you might. Again, even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. You can't outlive this hevel, this meaninglessness of life. The way the verse continues, I pictured Solomon getting up to get a second cup of coffee. He's finished the first one. You look at your watch and you think, gosh, when can I say I can leave? Because this is, what did I sign up for, right? He sits on back down. We all take a breath of what is he going to say next? And he continues. I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. And I applied my mind to the study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is crooked cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to knowledge. I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also, this is interesting, also of madness. I applied myself to madness and folly. But I learned that this too is what? The chasing after the wind. And this just cuts so deep. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Again, he's showing us this hevel, this meaninglessness. You can't outsmart it. Read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, go to all the seminars. Again, this is coming from the wisdom guy. Proverbs, King Solomon, and he's like, I don't know, the more wisdom I got, the more sad I got. Like, what? You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. Like, what happened, man? Are you okay? He says you can't outsmart it. No human invention, no intellect can deal with the dread of hevel. Every invention we come up with, I would submit to you, actually finds its way to enslave us more. Every piece of technology, every new invention, it doesn't move the needle forward when it comes to all of this that we are experiencing. You can't outlive it. You can't outsmart it. So then if we continue, he tries another approach. And I think it's an approach that, if we're honest, many of us are very, very familiar with. He says this, so I said to myself, come now, and I will test you with pleasure. to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness, and what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly. My mind still guided me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had their slaves who were born in my house. I also owned many herds of flocks that anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself, the treasures of kings. I acquired male and female singers, a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all this, my wisdom stayed with me. I denied myself nothing that my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was my reward for my toil. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless. A chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. The third observation he wants us to understand again, you can't outlive it, you can't outsmart it. This hevel, this meaninglessness, you also can't drown it out. You know, when we're babies, when we cry, most of us, they gave us pacifiers. And it soothed us, and it distracted us. And most of us never outgrew our pacifiers because now they're just more expensive and deadly. When we're sad, we drink. When we want connection, we go to porn. When we feel unhappy, we buy stuff. When we receive, our hands somehow remain empty. King Solomon's saying, I did everything. You heard it. I said yes to everything. I denied my eyes nothing, my heart nothing. I had singers and parties and property and riches and gold and silver and prostitutes and servants for everything I could ever want. And I sat and surveyed all that I had amassed. And it says, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. After all that I gained, nothing was gained under the sun. You can't drown it out. Of all of the pleasures of life, there is something, we all know this, but we try so hard to go back to our pacifiers to soothe us and distract us from the gnawing feeling that for every good, for every pleasure, for everything, every meal, every vice, you can't drown it out with stuff or sex or substances. There's still this gnawing in our souls that is not being fulfilled. And C.S. Lewis said it so good. And I remember Pastor Rick saying this quote so many times. It is such a good quote from Mere Christianity. He says, if I find in myself desires with nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world. He says, I tried to outlive it. And I still, this dread, this meaninglessness state, I tried to outsmart it in this hevel, this meaninglessness state. I tried to drown it out with everything I could find, and it still was gnawing at me. So again, I picture Solomon staring at his, dark reflection in his coffee, and us staring at him staring, until we finally kind of break this awkward silence we've made between us and him, saying, okay, so then what's the answer? What's the solution to this thing that you've been feeling? Like you're the wisest person who's ever lived. What happened to you, King Solomon? You've gotten mad. He says this. I feel like he's being vulnerable here now. He says in verse 17, we'll pick it back up. I hated life because the work that is done under the sun was so grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all the things I had toiled for under the sun because I must leave them to the ones who come after me. And who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish. That's kind of hilarious, huh? He amasses all this wealth and then he gives it to his grandkids and they ruin it. Who knows? Yet they will have control over all the fruit of my toil, into which I have poured my effort and skill, everything under the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. For a person may labor with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and then they will leave all they own to another who has not toiled for it. This too is meaningless and is a great misfortune. What do people get for all their toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days, their work is grief and pain. Even at night, wow, isn't that timely? Even at night, their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. Again, so far he's laid out this hevel. You can't outlive it. You can't outsmart it. You can't drown it out. And again, I'm going to intentionally leave you hanging this week because that's what Ecclesiastes does to us. I could go, all right, everyone turn to chapter 12. Didn't that feel good? No, we're supposed to stay right here. And I know it's awkward. And I know you're like, what kind of Sunday is this? Welcome to Ecclesiastes. Solomon will not conclude his thoughts fully until the very end of the book. So particularly today, I want to leave us hanging. I don't want to perfectly resolve this song, but in the next verse, he mentions God. And in this, I believe, we see a glimpse of the gospel. We see a glimpse of the hope. But first, and I'm sorry, but I kind of want to twist the knife a little bit more. And then we're going to go have ice cream, and it's going to be great. I want to share with you in just a little bit. And we can start both the playlist, and I'll cue the video here. I want to show you a video. This is restored footage from San Francisco in 1904. So this is very, very, very old archival footage that they have restored. And I also want to make sure you understand that the audio has been digitally added. They didn't have audio back then. And it's going to run for about a minute. And I want all of us to just take all of this in. Every single person you see, every single activity that you see, I want us to just watch this, and then we'll close this out. Watch this with me. I've watched that probably 10 times, and this first time made me tear up, and I don't know why. So as you saw, there were families and kids. There were busy businessmen caught in conversation. You probably didn't see it, but in the very first frames, a man gets hit by a car, very lightly, but he gets hit by a car because he wasn't paying attention. There's a group of teens that are probably up to no good, hitchhiking on the back of a car. Every single one of those people, they had stories, they had dreams, they had aspirations, they had families, they had fears, they had doubts. None of them are alive anymore. And none of us know their names or their faces. Whatever they were up to that day doesn't matter now. Whatever they were longing for doesn't matter now. Whatever they were stressing about doesn't matter now. All of them have passed on, and now what? They're just a YouTube video. And again, a strict horizontal view, a strict under the sun view of life. All I got for you is, oh, that's really depressing, but the series is the gospel in Ecclesiastes. So let me read to you what Ecclesiastes has to offer for us, and then I'll point you to Jesus as we close. He says this, the very next verse. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their toil. This too I see is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? So what is the lesson that Ecclesiastes wants us to leave with today? the hevel. You can't outlive it. You can't outsmart it. You can't drown it out. So enjoy it. So cherish it. What he's saying is everything we experience in life should be a signpost pointing up saying, God, thank you for this. Help me not to think about the next thing. Let me just embrace the thing that is this thing that is a good day. Let me thank you for the small joys of life. Be them hanging out with someone after service and catching up. Be it, oh God help me, a drumstick. I'm hoping for a caramel drumstick. I don't think we have any, but if there's one, I'm gonna fight you for it. And I'm gonna savor every single bite of that drumstick and say, God, this is so good. And here's the point. That video is really, really depressing for us, huh? Because we're like, oh, they're all gone. But listen, we won't play it again, but we could play it again. Every single person in that video is intimately known and loved by God. Not just he knew them, he knows them and loves them. The children playing, the little kid's smile at the end as he goes, wow, a video camera. The mother at the very end, you can tell like she's just had a day. Intimately known and infinitely loved. And there is no striving. God's not going like, hurry for your appointment, you know? I think God's just saying, enjoy me and enjoy this. And follow me and trust me. You can't outlive this hevel of it all, so enjoy it. The main idea of Ecclesiastes, I will give you this, otherwise I think I'll get emails all week long. What we will unpack is that Ecclesiastes wants to teach us that life under the sun is meaningless. The gospel teaches us that life under his sun, life under the sun, is meaningful. A horizontal view of life, of all that life has to offer you, will not eternally satisfy, so look up. But again, I think the lesson for us today, and you can stand with me as we close in the weirdest way possible. Maybe all the things you're stressed about right now don't really matter. And I know you're so big and important, and you probably work for a really big company and pays you so much, and blah, blah, blah. And your phone's been ringing this whole time. Maybe we could all just hevel together. The vapor, the breath. And we can just go, God, thank you for the simple joys of today. Maybe it's a lunch. Maybe it's a nap. In Jesus' name, I receive that. Maybe it's hanging out with friends after school. Maybe it's after school, sorry. It's just our lives. That's what we always do. Or maybe you go to school today. I don't know. I think the beauty of it all is all of this is fleeting. So God, where are you in the here and now? For the small joys, they don't have to be small joys. If you just look up and go, hey, thank you for this. Thank you for even the things that are hard, the sleepless nights. God, thank you for the nights when my kids are up. They're having growing pains because that means they're growing. And I sometimes just go to sleep instead of saying, thank you. Thank you that we're together. Thank you for a new day. Thank you for a new opportunity. Why do we try and outlive it? Why do we try and outrun it? Why do we try and outsmart it? Why do we try and drown it out? We can just look to God and say, thank you. And that's what I leave you with today. For the good and the bad, for the small, for the big. None of it matters, ultimately. But the eternal, loving, wonderful God who loves you so much, he's up to something. So we can take a deep breath and get some perspective and just say thank you. I want to close, and I'm going to race outside these doors and start prepping ice cream for you. See if there's a drumstick in there with some caramel inside. And maybe today we can all just take a breath and enjoy it together. Isn't that good? Let me close this out. God, I thank you for the gift of today. I thank you for the things that you are up to and you are doing that we don't know about, maybe even we will never know about this side of eternity. God, for the good and the bad, for the small and the big, for the stressful and the relaxing, every piece of this life that is fleeting, it is a vapor. It is here and it is gone. And so much of our culture wants us to fast forward or try and drown out that feeling. We have this one life, and you've given us today, October 6th. So help us to enjoy it, because every cracked smile, every hug, every hello is a beautiful, wonderful gift from you. We thank you for it, God. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I'll race you to the ice cream, okay? You are loved. We'll see you next Sunday.